the occasion, teach how to fall to your level of preparation. Let's a little down, like many of you have heard, the Charlie Kirk, the assassination, the killing of legendary. I'm going to use the term legendary when it comes to him. Charlie Kirk has been something that it's still fresh. Recording this the morning after the news has made its way around the world that Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at a rally in Utah, which move swiftly, thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork you will not get anywhere else. So we do not teach you how to rise to the occasion, teach you how to fall to your level of preparation. Let's a little down, like many of you have heard, the Charlie Kirk, the assassination, the killing of legendary. I'm going to use the term legendary when it comes to him. Charlie Kirk has been something that it's still fresh. Recording this the morning after the news has made its way around the world that Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at a rally in Utah, which I'll do this move swiftly thought, but I'll also give some more reaction to it as I gather my thoughts and collect my thoughts. Right now, you're just hearing my initial thoughts on it, and there's three avenues in which I'm going to have to break this down from. First and foremost, to the folks out there the despicable folks out there that have the fucking audacity to have a celebratory tone, to have things to be said or saying things online that have any sense of celebratory tone. That is just fucking disgusting and ridiculous, and you're a very, very low human being. And that's all the time I'm going to spend on anybody who has that mentality, anybody who actually had the fucking the gall, the disgraceful way in which you put it on the internet, the disgraceful messages that I got from a post that I made last night. Disgusting. And that's the only time I'm going to spend on you guys, because again, a lot like Charlie, a lot like the people that I look to follow online, a lot like the people that have inspired me to do the things I do, I put that in God's hands. And when you put a faith in God, when you put a faith in your Lord and Savior, when you decide to make God the number one in your life and the walk of faith, then you don't have to worry. You don't have to spend time thinking about trolls. You don't have to spend time thinking about cowards. You don't have to spend time thinking about the disgusting life and disgusting mental framework in which those people have to operate from. That's not your place. That's not your energy. They don't need any more of your energy. That's God's hands, all right? So as far as Charlie Kirk is concerned, angle number two now that I have to break this down from is how his work inspired my work. Again, about a year ago, didn't have the girlfriend I have now, didn't have some of the colleagues that I currently work with, didn't have the position, I'll say it like that. I didn't have the position that I currently have at the school I teach at. And I didn't have this position because the position didn't exist, all right? The position of sport and fitness director at the particular school that I teach at, it did not exist when I applied to work at the school. When I just decided that, education, being a 5-time published author, and being in the education world and developing the education world, this position that I currently have, it didn't exist. So as I was developing my own ideas, my own ideologies, my own mentality, my own thinking, and I was around the group of people that I work with, these were what I like to call race hustlers. And the people that see me and they're race hustling, they have a race hustling mentality. And race hustling is just another way of saying I'm selling the victim mentality. I'm selling the fact that just because you were born as a black man, black woman, black person in general, all of a sudden you're a victim, and all of a sudden, you know, the world owes you this and the world owes you that. So you don't have to earn any of it because black people did this. But I was an easy route to that mentality because of all the things that I've lived through. And the people that I had to be around, the people that I was forced to be around, were trying to push that mentality on me. And then I stumbled on to the folks like Candace Owens. And, you know, between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, they did a lot. I mean, they stood 10 toes down, man. They stood 10 toes down, multiple college campuses, debating whoever the fuck wanted to debate them and just going at it. And I loved it. I loved every second of it because I could resonate with that feeling of being teamed up. I could teamed up against and ganged up on, and people telling you how you're supposed to think as if you don't got your own motherfucking mind, right? And I loved their mentality, and based on a lot of their videos, it wasn't just them two, but just their mentality among others really taught me, hey, I'm not a victim. I'm not the person that gets to run around making excuses as to why I'm not getting to the places where I want to be. That is not the mentality. Pull out this camera right now, say what you feel, say whatever the fuck it is you want to say, and, you know, let the chips fall wherever they're going to fucking fall. That was the mentality. That was the thing that they made possible because I got a chance to see it. So that's what they were to me. And if you could just look at this channel, look at my work, look at everything I've done from a year ago to now, you'll see the results of it. And it's not me needing to say much. So that's number two. Next thing, and again, I'm going to probably dive deeper into all of these concepts, but the final thing I want to say is to whoever it was who took this man's life. Again, 2 daughters, right? He leaves behind a wife and 2. You know, when you, as a person that brings, that's around kids a lot and, you know, is around young people and is built to shape young people's minds, when you think about the fact that he's leaving behind a wife and, Jesus. He's living behind a wife and 2 daughters, 2 young daughters. And the person who did this heinous act, you tried to silence the man, and what's going to end up happening, like President Trump started to allude to, the only thing that's going to happen is going to amplify his voice even more. It's going to make it so he's even loud. He's even more prevalent. You'll see his video start to explode. You'll see a lot of the things that he said, the constant consistency, and the way he went about, you know, going after things. And again, I'm not going to sit up here and say I agree with everything, nor am I, and everything that he's ever said, but I don't agree with everything anybody ever says. That's part of the debate. That's part of what we have in this country. We have the ability to agree to disagree, move on, be professionals about it, and move the fuck on. If somebody has that viewpoint, you have this viewpoint, okay, let's talk about it and let's move on in a way that's going to be beneficial to the future. But we don't want people losing their lives, period, point blank, end of sentence. So sincere condolences, and again, I had all these plans to talk my team. I'm a huge diehard Washington Commanders fan. I had a plan to kind of talk about the game tonight, and, you know, it's like, look, this happened, and this is a sad day. I'll just say it like that. It's a sad day. But the takeaway from all of this is to do not let anyone silence you. Don't let any motherfucking body try to put their own bullshit mentality onto you. You stand 10 toes down. All right, if we learn anything from Charlie Kirk's life, is you stand 10 motherfucking toes down on whatever the fuck it is you believe, and you put it out there in a way that's going to stick. Because at the end of the day, what that killer did, what that shooter did, what he did was he made it so his voice now becomes even more amplified, and his voice, and more people know who he is, and more people know what he's all about. All right. So again, this is just my initial reaction to it, and I'll talk a little bit more about it today on the live stream, and then get on to some recap stuff throughout the week. We've been talking about reinvesting in yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Commanders and Commanders versus Packers game tonight. So all that being said, main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I do, it's MakeYaMove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
All right, as you guys heard, Aswan Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division One college football player, and current five-time, very soon to be six-time published author and educator. The whole Move Swiftly brand, it's all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and applying them to businesses and business owners, so they have a staff and or a group of employees that moves as efficiently as a championship high school or youth football team. As you guys just heard, we're going to do a couple things today. We're going to kind of recap a little bit about what I said, and talk a little Charlie Kirk and react to what the horrible act, the horrible news that has made its way around the world. Do a little bit of recap of what we've been talking about all week in regards to just investing in yourself. And if Charlie Kirk's legacy, if his life can teach you anything, it's the importance of reinvesting in yourself, putting yourself out there, making sure no matter what gets done, understand we can't control the future. We don't know when our time is going to come, and the importance of actually having material out there that's going to stick and leaving a legacy behind, all that stuff, man. Everything that not only that I've talked about this week, but every single thing I talk about every single day on this show, right? It comes out on days like this because you just don't know when your time is coming. And if you don't live your life, you don't live your life in a way that makes it so you can affect change. And whether, again, you just heard me say it, whether you like the guy, you didn't like the guy, he sparked enough debate. He decided that he was going to stand 10 toes down and long enough to where he was going to get conversations, great conversations started, and it lead to wherever it leads to. That's the way you have to live your life, because you just don't know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Again, investing in yourself. And then, my Commanders, my Washington Commanders are on tonight playing the Green Bay Packers. The full game, I'll have the full game out on the other channel, Film Session Saturday. The full game will be on that channel the following morning. Yeah, I don't record live. I don't do the games live because the YouTube, I have too much of a decent thing working here on YouTube. I don't need to be running into any major copyright issues, but I will be the game tonight where they play the Packers. I'll be talking a little bit about what I'm looking forward to that. They got Micah Parsons now, and I'll just give you my take on it'll be an unbiased take. Again, I'm a Commanders fan. You'll see me wearing my Commanders hat while I am watching the game, but I'm a football guy that knows the game of football and can break down the game of football. So I'll be able to tell you exactly what happened, what went down, and how everything went down. All right. So before we get into all that, let me get through a few announcements. First and foremost, business owners, if you have not yet, make sure you go to freeguide.makeymove.com. That's freeguide.makeymove.com. We work from a very, very simple, easy to understand process and system around here. Number one, it's establishing measurables. Number two, it's creating a professional distance and creating a solid mix of those two and allowing that to be the productive environment. All right, to allow measurables, a professional distance, and allowing those two things to become the productive environment that you both need and want if you want to have a workplace in which people are working together in a conducive way. There's a lot of business owners, a lot of you guys out there that are struggling with turnover because you are not holding your staff accountable. You're not holding your staff accountable to achieve certain measurables, and you're just paying people to be just basically be dead weight. And when you don't have the measurables, it lacks the professional distance because there are cliques that start to get involved. There are people who, again, just resonate with other folks because of personal interest. I deal with it all day. There are people that I can talk about certain things with that have nothing to do with the work. And then their opinions and their friendship starts to get in the way of a professional environment. So you need the measurables to create the professional distance. And those are the things that are going to lead to the productive environment. Too often do we not see this, and it starts with the lack of measurables in which we're holding everybody accountable for. All right, so to start, just simply go to freeguide.makeymove.com. Hit the button there. You'll get a 10-step process in which you can at least get the ball rolling on this very process. Now, it won't solve all your problems, but it's at least going to get you thinking in the right way. All right. Next thing, if you are like our favorite people to work with around here, if you are some of our favorite people to work with around here, the folks that are saying bump all that free stuff as one, let me know who I got to pay. How do I pay? So how do I pay you to implement the mindset that you have into my staff and put the systems together so I don't lose employees. I don't lose employees every single month, and I'm constantly taking money out of my profits so I can replace employees. You want your retention rates to look a whole lot better. Simply go to MakeYaMove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. Hit the shop now button. There's books you can purchase. There's more inquiries about the workshops and how that would work. All that stuff is on MakeYaMove.com. Turn your business into a championship team. That is common knowledge that the best way to win in business or in life is by avoiding ways to lose. Whether you just started a new business or you've been in business for quite some time, there's no getting around the need to hire or outsource certain elements of your organization so things can run as efficiently as possible. When you book your meeting with Aswan, he'll diagnose what the issues are with your current system and then strategically create a system in which will lead to a reduced amount of turnover or a clear understanding of the parts of your business that need to be outsourced. All right. Okay. So let's jump into this. And again, now that I kind of have my clarity, I'm a little calm, I'm a little more calmed down than I was before. When it comes to how the whole Charlie Kirk situation hit home with me, it's because of, like you just heard on today's Move Swiftly Thought, a year and a half ago, about a year ago, not yet, we could pretty much say a year ago. If you look at the date of this article, right, it's November 12th, 2024. We're approaching a year from last year's election, when at this time last year, the entire country was in a fist fight. It felt this election year. We were in a situation where you have blue, right, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever. You had a bunch of people who had their own political views, their own political ideologies, their own way of thinking, which again is part of what makes the country great. Part of what makes the country so great is that you do get so many different viewpoints. I mean, I myself can tell you, as a person that works in education, there's some things that I'm not able to think about that some of the ladies that I work with are helping me as I do the things that I'm good at. And it makes for very, very beautiful mix, which is what this country is all about. But when it comes to election years and people coming with their own political viewpoints and starting to try to put you in a certain box because you have a certain identity and use identity politics and all that, that is an unavoidable thing. Right? It's an unavoidable thing, especially me. Again, me, a person that grew up in the DMV, grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, literally maybe about 15 to 20 minutes from the White House, where there was politics all over, right? So for me, I've learned that whether Democrat, Republican, liberals, conservative, I didn't give a shit what it was. If you can get the job done, if you're good at what you do, if you stand 10 toes down on whatever you believe in, you can provide some factual data and you can prove it, I'm rocking with you. It didn't matter what it doesn't matter what you believe in, as long as you believe it from your core and you have actual facts behind it and you believe it in all, because that's the way I am. Again, I actually asked ChatGPT this a couple months ago. I was like, okay, given everything you know about Aswan Crookshank, what would you consider me? And the answer was spot on. They said, you're a centrist. You can care about the gender, you can care about the race, you can care less about any of that stuff. The only thing you care about as one is results. Is the person good enough to do what it is they say they're going to do? So what was happening is I was bombarded with extreme leftists. All right, the place of business and the places in which I teach it, I was bombarded with people that have the extreme leftist mentality where everyone's a victim and Black Lives Matter, and the whole thing. So when I stumbled across these two videos, again, no one sent it to me. I really don't have people texting me like that. But when I stumbled across these two videos and I saw the way they stood 10 toes down when these snarky college kids who thought they knew everything about the world, when they would try to get them these gotcha moments and tell them how to think and all that, and the way they were bringing facts to them, it attracted me to what they were about, and it made me want to know more. It made me want to develop in the content creation game. It made me want to be on YouTube more, maybe, because I was learning as they were teaching. Hey, normally it's just a true fact about life. Normally, when you have one person standing on what they believe in, and you have a whole group of people trying to, push a certain idea or make them gang up on them in some sort of way. Normally, the person who has a solid point and standing firm, normally that's the person that you need to be following. And that's just advice I would give anybody about life, is whatever majority is doing, you got to find yourself doing the opposite of it if you actually want to stand out, right? So that's what these two were. So once the election happened, we know what the results were. You can see it right here, November 12th, 2024. It was the next week, because November 4th we found out. So the next couple of days I got a chance to write about it, and this was I'll skip down to the part where I mentioned Charlie Kirk, because this is important for you guys to read. So hence the reason why the Charlie Kirks and the Candace Owenses of the world became the reason for my sanity, because it got that bad. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It got that bad when it comes to the way I was standing 10 toes down, as I was learning from their videos, certain things that I was picking up and doing my own fact checking. And I was bringing it back to the people who were so extreme left and so anti-Candace Owens and so anti-Trump and so anti-this. It's like, hey, something like this happened, that might poke holes in your argument. I was learning along with them. So as I was learning from them and seeing how they are pulling young people away from this victim mentality and saying, hey, look, we have great opportunities now in this country to be great, to do great things. That's why they became my sanity, because I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. So of the world became the reason for my sanity. So these two, among others, and these weren't the only two, in this article, I wanted to mention people like a Dre or an Anton Daniels or Brandon Tatum. These kinds of folks were I was really diving into what they were about, and it led to the results I was able to get. I was able to get a promotion at the place I teach at, a job, again, a situation where this position didn't exist before as one Crookshank. All right. So just listening to them and turning, instead of being a victim, things started to work out in my favor. My podcast was jumping, a lot of great people started to come on this very platform that you can look at right now. It started to, I started to see the results of staying away from the victim Olympics. All right. So yeah, so show the level of courage that I pray people see when they tune into my videos. These 2-4 period allow me not to get swallowed up in the race hustling industry that I would have been the perfect fit for. As one, a black guy, former football player, I was an easy sell to race hustlers. Yet these two would do college tours and publish videos of them debunking the myth that America has some sort of system that is set up for black people to fail. They didn't duck and hide from difficult conversations. They weren't afraid to go back and forth with anyone about what they truly believe. And that is the America I am both proud to be a part of, and the America I feel a responsibility to contribute to in a way that I can do the same thing for the next generation of people. That part right here. Okay, this right here, as you can see, I'll leave it up on the screen for you. All right, is where we got to take it. All right, and then I'll kind of close out the Charlie Kirk reaction with that one. I'll let you guys read it just there on the screen. All right, what has to happen from here, because it was a tragic day. It's still a sad day. It's still very difficult to actually consider that a 31-year-old man loses his life like that and leaves behind 2 daughters and a wife and all that. That part of it is something that is not easy to think about, especially me being in the situation I am with my girl, and being on YouTube as much as I am, as much as opinions I have. When the more I develop in this game, the more I think about them and what things can happen. And not only her, but the high school mentor, the high school kids that I'm now responsible, high school mentors that look up to me, so many young people that are coming into as one's world and into the orbit, so many parents, so many things that are moving in that direction. You think about what we have to do in terms of how do we honor Charlie Kirk's legacy, is we do exactly that. We do exactly what it says right there on the screen, is the difficult conversations, the not being afraid to go back and forth with anybody about what you truly believe. Be proud to be a part of that America, because that's what he stood for. That's what he stood for. And that's what drew me into his world. All right. And that's what we got to take away from it, is that we don't know. We just don't. Right. We have no control. We don't know when our time is going to come. The only thing we can do is live to the fullest now, put out what you believe in now, and just let the chips fall where they're going to fall, because you have to do your part and keep your faith in God. So, sincere condolences to Charlie Kirk and, the family and the loved ones, the people that got the opportunity to get with him and know him personally. As I've been listening to a lot of those reactions, you can see the brokenness, the brokenness that they have, because that's their lane. My lane is employee development and sports, and using sports for employee development, things like that. Their lane is political. And when you see the prominent folks that have been in the political arena and the way that they are speaking about him, you could feel the heartbreaking as they continue to talk about it. So sincere condolences there. All right. Now, as far as today's recap and the thing we've been discussing all week, we've been talking about reinvesting in yourself and making sure you are putting the systems in place. You're putting the systems in place in which you are constantly reinvesting in yourself. And all week we've been discussing how to actually do that. All right. Now there's a system in which you have to do that. I'll recap the system, and then I'll quickly recap Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. But the system that you have to implement in terms of the 5 ways in which you constantly reinvest in yourself. First of all, why it's important. Why it's important is because of everything that I've said for the past 25 minutes. We don't know when our day is coming. Our day, we just don't know. It's no age. There's no warning sign. It just may or may not happen that day. So reinvesting in yourself has to be something that you intentionally do every single day. All right. You have to intentionally do it, not even just for you in the sense of you feeling good. It has to be something that you do for the betterment of the next generation of people. You reinvesting in yourself is actually something that's going to leave a positive impact on the people that love you and the loved ones and the folks that you're around. All right. So the very first step has to be, you got to have an end game thinking. You got to know your end game. You got to begin with an end in mind. You got to begin and start with an understanding of, where do I want this thing to end? All right. It's like when you start a business, you in your mind has to know who exactly is going to pay for what I'm offering. If you don't have the questions to that, don't have the answers to that question, don't start the business until you know exactly who's going to pay for the things that you do. All right. That's number one. Next thing is establishing a regular income. Without the regular income, you can't constantly make investments in yourself. You can't constantly make the investments that you need to make to start to see the fruits of your labor. All right. Learn to say no. With the end game thinking and establishing a regular income, you're able to say no to certain opportunities and certain people that just may not be the great fit. And then we talked about the follow-up process. There needs to be a systematic thing in place where you're constantly following up with people, making sure that and again, I'm not talking to you as this is something that I'm perfect at. I'm not perfect at it at all, but it is something that does need to be established and it's being worked on as we speak. And right there, number 5, again, as we spoke about Charlie Kirk earlier, you have to stay informed with current events. And as you're staying informed with current events and you are constantly making investments in yourself, you'll start to see where the connections are happening down the line, and there'll be a natural fit. You won't be going out of your way to talk about something that's not your lane, and you won't be forcing connections. You won't be forcing opportunities. It will be a natural flow towards what it is you do. All right. So that was Top 5 Tuesday. Again, go back to Tuesday and watch that. Win-Trapreneur Wednesday, we talked about, actually, let me pull up the article from yesterday. Talked about a recap, just pretty much recapped the Key Largo trip I took with my girl. We went to Key Largo to visit Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, Fisherman's Cove. It was a great time at the restaurant. It was funny because I was talking about how, you know, we didn't have, both times we went for lunch and then we went for dinner when during the Miami versus Notre Dame game, and neither one, we didn't have one waiter or one waitress. It was just like who was ever there, we order our food, they go to the kitchen, they hook it up, and you know, so that means the kitchen had to be the investment in terms of the employees and stuff like that. So that was an interesting observation that we had made and stuff like that. So that was pretty much it in terms of, and it was interesting because again, the track record of Jimmy Johnson and the fact that he made these investments in his happiness, and you know, he went and took the money that he earned and built up this restaurant in Key Largo, a great location where people can go fishing and all that kind of stuff. And that was him constantly reinvesting in himself, and
it's easier.
he was reinvesting. He was reinvesting in himself and making sure certain things fit, and having a very philanthropic viewpoint. And in fact, the next week's article, we're going to talk about Biff Poggi. You know, he's going to be the interim head coach for my Michigan Wolverines. So I did a lot of research on him this week to make sure we bring that. There's a philanthropic mindset that needs to come with a lot of this. All right, so let's get into tonight and what I'm going to be looking for tonight. Commanders, my Washington Commanders taking on, matter of fact, let me pull up something real quick. Session Saturday. Sure. All right, so tonight, it won't be live, but tomorrow morning, I'll have the full game of the Washington Commanders and the Green Bay Packers tonight. They're taking on the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, and it'll be available on this channel. The full game will be available on this channel, but I'll just give you a quick synopsis of what I'll be looking for, because one of the things when I watch a game, I watch the full game, the front seven, what they're about, what they're doing, everything that everything that the front seven is doing, all of that stuff. Again, I use the game to teach business owners to how to build their organization. And the one thing that I'm predicting, and the one thing that I'll actually be looking for, is that matchup that we're going to see with Jaden Daniels, not Jaden Daniels per se, but the offense of the Washington Commanders now that we got Deebo Samuels and Zach Ertz and Scary Terry, there's levels in terms of what we can do offensively. And the Micah Parsons of the world, he just won't be able to just pass rush like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the offensive and how Cliff Kingsbury, he's the offensive coordinator for my Washington Commanders. It's going to be interesting to see how he attacks them. It's going to be a lot of screens. There's going to be a lot of draws. There's going to be a lot of rollouts and RPOs and keeping Micah Parsons from just rushing upfield. And we're going to see, and I'm making the prediction now. Again, I believe that my Commanders are going to be leaving. They're going to be leaving Green Bay 2-0 because they're going to kick Green Bay's ass. But more importantly, you'll see why Jerry Jones probably got rid of Micah Parsons, because as great of a pass rusher as he is, he still would have had to deal with our offense twice a year. Again, as a Commanders fan, he would have to deal with our offense twice a year. And when you see the way our offense has now gotten better because of Deebo. So again, we had Zach Ertz and we had Scary Terry last year, but we didn't have that threat, that playmaking threat, that player in Deebo Samuel. You could put him at the slot. You could put him at running back. You can do a lot of different things with Deebo Samuel that every defense now has to respect. And now this offense is so dynamic that it's going to be like, damn, okay, I can't just sit back and rush Jaden Daniels. So that this is going to be what that's what's going to win the matchup right there. It's going to be, can we utilize and put Micah Parsons again? He's a dog. Ain't nobody telling you he's not a great player, but his strength is his pass rush, and he's not going to be able to just sit back and rush the passer the way he normally is. And that's what's going to be interesting to see. So I'll talk more about the results of that tomorrow as I watch the full game and see everything that it's all about. Again, main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing. If you want to move forward with an employee development workshop, all of that is available on MakeYaMove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. Your one-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.